Vice Chairman of the Supreme National Council for Education, PUC founder, and Chairman and CEO, Dr. Jia-Sang-Jan-Hon, PUC President, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon again. We will continue our special session with a Khmer survivor, and this afternoon we are having 6 speakers who have lived through the Khmer period. Each of them will briefly talk about his or her experiences during the time. Without further ado, may I invite Ms. Chum Suk-ha to be the first topic on women and family, then followed by politics, culture, livelihood, education, and youth. Ms. Chum Suk-ha, please.
Good afternoon, His Excellency Jose Ramos-Horta, President of Timor-Leste, winner of the Nobel Prize, Peace Prize, and delegation. His Excellency Dr. Kong Senior Minister and Royal Government of Cambodia, Vice Chairman of the Supreme National Council of Education, PUC founder, Chairman of PUC Board of Trustees. Dr. Jia-Sang-Jan-Hon, PUC President, Dean, and faculty members. First of all, I would like to thank the PUC to give me this opportunity to deliver a short presentation about women and family during the marriage from April 17, 1975 till January 7, 1979. In fact, there is a lot of information on the internet, but the story that I'm going to tell you about are true, and I learned from the people around me, which is called children group and called Tongkoma. As mother, women could not meet or take care of them in terms of food, education, or sickness. Mother was very worried about their children. They did not know whether they were fine, sick, or hungry. The only one thing that women could do at that time was crying silently and pray to the Buddha. And if they refused, they would be destroyed or put in jail. During Khmer Rule, all the people worked for exchange little food or sometimes no food. Khmer Rule said women and men have equal rights. Therefore, if men can carry 100 kilograms of rice, women have to do so. But naturally, women are weaker than men. Therefore, they cannot do the same physical work as men. However, Khmer Rule did not care about this, and they forced women to overwork, so they became sick and died gradually. In contrast, in new Cambodian society, men and women have equal rights in terms of sharing ideas and working in any department of the government. For example, in one family, if husband cannot earn enough money, women can work outside and help. But if husband can support the family alone, women just stay home and do household chores, looking after children and give additional education to the kids. Husband and wife help each other in earning money and doing housework. Nowadays, women work to fulfill their needs and to improve their standard of living. Women live happily and can decide to do what they want. My presentation finished now. Thank you for attention.
About significant Cambodian political situation during the Khmer Rouge regime. Then the country became the constitutional monarchy, which was under the leadership of King Norodom Sihanouk from 1953 to 1970. After living in peace and tranquility about a decade, Cambodia was threatened by internal crises such as economic difficulties, corruption, growing alienation between the people and the government, the growth of militant communists, and external crises, for instance, conflicts in neighboring Vietnam. Because of those crises, King Sihanouk's period of reign was ended up by a bloodless coup on March 18, 1970. After King Sihanouk was overthrown by the pro-American Field Marshal Donald on March 18, 1970, a new regime called the Khmer Republic was instated in October 1970. By then, Cambodia was plunged into civil war and the Vietnam War. And on April 17, 1975, the Khmer Republic collapsed and the Khmer forces occupied Phnom Penh. Now permit me to quickly describe the political situation under the democratic Kampuchea, known to the world as the Killing Field, the regime which was under the firm control of Pol Pot from April 17, 1975 to January 7, 1979. The collapse of the Khmer Republic on April 17, 1975 marked the victory of the democratic Kampuchea, the communist Khmer under the leadership of Pol Pot. Soon after occupying Cambodia's towns and cities, the Khmer evacuated all city dwellers into the countryside to remote, far-flung, or malaria areas with little or no preparation. The city dwellers had been told that they had to leave immediately because the Americans were going to bomb the cities, but that they would be allowed to return in a few days. During that chaotic evacuation, mass executions were first conducted for the former Khmer Republic soldiers, military officers, police, intellectuals, and all educated people whom they could find. Also, civil servants and officials of the Lunol regime were asked to identify themselves. The Khmer said the civil servants and officials would be needed to have run the country. But instead of being taken to have run the country, as they were told, they were taken and immediately shot dead. All urban people who had been evacuated were forced to take up agricultural tasks, such as clearing land, planting crops, and building canals, all under severe supervision from armed soldiers and Khmer Rouge cadres. Living conditions deteriorated, especially for those unaccustomed to physical labor. Every single day, people were murdered for complaining about living conditions, for expressing religious sentiments, for not working hard, for collecting food for their own use, for having sexual relations, or for grieving over the loss of relatives or friends. The evacuees from the cities were driven hard, rising before 5 a.m. in the morning and sometimes working until 8 p.m. if there was sufficient light. Where auctions were not available, groups of 8 people pulled plows in their stead. Workers who did not meet their quota were reprimanded, and if they did not improve, they were sent to the Angkala, means higher organization, which meant execution. Workers were not given enough to eat and had to forage in the field and woods for lizards, crabs, insects, etc. The Khmer soldiers told the evacuees that they had it easy compared to what the revolutionary had to endure during the war. When workers complained about the food, the soldier told them, "If you are not happy, we will take you to a place where there is more than enough to eat, i.e. to the place of execution where there were many dead bodies." The Khmer Rouge soldiers, on the other hand, had plenty. They justified the difference on the argument, "You are prisoners of war. We were hungry for 5 years. Now it's your turn." The Khmer Rouge isolated Cambodia from all foreign influences. At that time, Cambodia had a severe absence of teachers, professors, doctors, engineers, lawyers, bankers, artists, monks, and other civil servants. Traditional family life was violently disrupted and virtually abolished. Families were broken up and were replaced with communal groupings. Children, siblings, parents, husbands, wives, and grandparents all work and live separately from each other. The people live in a very frightening situation, and no one trusted one another. Buddhism and other religions were repressed ruthlessly. Temples were destroyed or put to secular uses, and monks were defrauded, tortured, and forced to do manual labor. Markets, currency, and formal education were beyond imagination. During its rule over Cambodia, the Khmer Rouge, under the political and ideological leadership of Pol Pot, strove to build a socially and ethnically homogeneous society by abolishing all pre-existing economic, social, and cultural institutions, and transforming the population of Cambodia into a collective workforce. Within 3 years, 8 months, and 20 days, an estimated 1.7 million souls had perished from murder, starvation, overwork, and diseases. Its brutality gave the community Hanoi, who had waited for the best opportunity, a pretext for coming to Cambodia in December 1978. The democratic Kampuchea was ended and a neo-colonial rule emerged. There are major lessons of the Cambodian nightmare. The first and most important is that the forced march of economic development under a Marxist, Leninist, Stalinist program did not work, despite the tragic sacrifices of the people. Little or nothing of lasting value were accomplished, and the system could not even meet the necessities of life. Another thing to remember is that power is dangerous under any circumstance, and absolute power in the hands of self-righteous fanatics is almost certain to produce a living hell like Cambodia during the Khmer Rouge period. Thank you very much.
It was a long prehistoric establishment of the Austro-Asiatic rule. The second stage commenced with the introduction of Indian culture. The third stage combined these two earlier trends into the basic today's Cambodian today. On the golden age of Cambodia was between the 9th and the 14th centuries, during the Angkor period, during which it was a powerful and prosperous empire that flourished and dominated almost all of inland Southeast Asia. Many temples from this period, however, like the Bayon and Angkor Wat, still remain today, scattered throughout Indochina country as a reminder of the grandeur of Khmer art and culture. Cambodia unparalleled achievement in art, architecture, music, and dance. During this period have had a great influence of many neighborhood kingdoms, namely Thailand and Laos. The effects of Angkorian cultures can still be seen today in these centuries as they share many close characteristics with current days of Cambodia. Cambodia began to decline gradually after the death of the great King Jaman VII in 1980. The country has no record of several centuries and referred to endless dispute and civil war. The neighborhood kingdom attacks and looted kingdom from time to time. Capital city evacuated, abandoned, shifted from side to side as the kingdom crumbled, including Phnom Penh. The Khmer were driven out, tortured, degraded, burned, and destroyed. In 1863 to 1953, the French took full control of power over politics, economics, and social life to the French residents and made Cambodia a colony. For nearly 100 years, the French deprived the country of much of its sovereignty. In 1949, President Jose Ramos-Horta proclaimed Cambodia independent, and in 1953 the full independence was granted. Unfortunately, Khmer culture actually had been disappeared once from Cambodia in the troubled period of Khmer Rouge regime in 1975 to 1979. Khmer Rouge leaders Pol Pot formed a communist peasant farming society which resulted in the death of the 3 million people from starvation, overwork, and execution. There were forcible evacuation, mass murderers, and the purposeful starvation of its own people, genocide against national minority, sociocide against the intelligentsia, eradication of the upper and middle class, and the perceived superiors of the old region. Wanton destruction of temples, factories, and modern machinery. The abolition of religion, money, private property, school, book, houses, hospital, families, and the introduction of the forced labor of the entire population, including children separate from their parents. Tragedy affected everyone, everywhere in the country. It was the most obscure period of Cambodian history. It was a period of upheaval and radical social change that devastated the art, culture, tradition, health, morality, physical environment, and shook Cambodian society to its roots. Fun is said to have reborn and begun to flourish again after the United Nations sponsored edition of 1993. And established to ensure peace and security of Cambodia. After the journal edition, Cambodian people have a dilemma in surviving themselves as well as rebuilding their handicapped country. However, we are proud of our great civilization and continue to learn from our past and to preserve our wonderful ancestor heritage. Thank you very much.
That was sent out of their hometown. In the 1970-75, the people will cooperate and work with the government in order to fight for the field of the battlefield for the war that we call Civil War in Cambodia. But the people in the liberated area was called neutral aid team. That amount of 10 or 30 families was counted. In 1925, that team was changed to low-level cooperatives. That those only 100 or 200 people were called. But in 1977, they changed to lower-level cooperative to 200 or 300 people to high-level cooperative that among 1,000 families that we call sub-district. I, myself, and all of my family, among 24 people, was sent to the northwest zone that we call Battambang province. We left only 4 back after the liberation day. I and my mom, my mother, that she was passed away last year. Then we have been through in the labor of the state of the Khmer Rouge. This concentrated about to abolish private ownership of the Khmer Rouge, that we was suffered from that country. They want to strengthen the status of the workers and peasants, but we are the people in the city. Among those, my family, we are the middle family. That my father was a teacher, that they count us that the operation by using the food which is so scarce. People were unpleasant and crucial because they need to survive. They do everything in order to survive. People give all their property to be used for collectively. Then people have nothing than their own. Khmer Rouge cooperatives, they mean great force for building the country. Khmer Rouge, they think the cooperative, the strong wall to protect the democratic country. This concerns to the daily life. We always have the nightmare. We don't have time to be happy. We don't have time to socialize then we have to work hard. Even that we left the family, I myself was separate from my family, we call mobile Jew. That we force us to separate from all of 24, then we stay alone. My sister and my father and my mother also separated. This concern to the nightmare all the time, that we always socialize with each other, especially in the time that we have like New Year and some of the religious ceremony that we have, always have the time together, but in Pol Pot time that we call it, they were